Cranky Motorsports here. Oh, got something on the camera. Cranky Motorsports here. I am out here working on the Bel Air again. And you know what today is? It's cloudy. I think it's going to rain. We could get some thunderstorms. So rather than letting the car sit outside, now that I've got the steering pretty much done, everything's snugged up. It's not all tight, but it's snugged up. And I got the fuel tank in. Last couple things I need to do, I need to remove my jury-rig fuel setup that I had running from a 1-gallon gas can. I'm going to take all this stuff off and hook up the actual fuel line, which is here, from my steel line going back to my pump. And then I'm going to put some fuel in the tank in the trunk and start this thing up and actually try to drive it back into my garage. Now my whole plan was, while the car was out, I was going to clean my garage up and make it a little bit easier to use and nicer so I could walk around the front of the car better. That didn't happen. But the nice thing is, now that I can drive it in and out. So the crummy thing is I still don't have a place to put the battery yet. When I put the fender back on, I think I'm going to put the battery right up here behind the headlight. I don't remember if that was where it was supposed to be or not, but that's where all my battery cables go to. So I got one connected onto the frame here. And then I have another one from the other side of the frame to the block, and then I have one from the block to the body. Something I learned a long time ago: when you're working on anything that has to do with a lot of electrical stuff in the car, put tons of grounds on. So basically ground the block to the frame to the body to the block, and you just need to have a constant loop of ground from, you know, frame, motor to body, body to frame, so that everything's grounded well. So I'm going to put another ground in the back of the chassis between the trunk and the frame as well, so all the taillights and everything will work fine. And I still haven't gotten like all the taillight wiring and all that stuff done yet. Obviously, everything in the car was still from 1953, 6-volt system, all cloth wrap wire. I didn't want to worry about that crap, so I ripped everything out. Every stitch of wiring originally is gone, except for the light on the top of the ceiling, which I'm probably not going to hook back up. So, hot rodder's nightmare, or car buyer's nightmare, buying anything that has wiring that somebody else did by hand. This is not going to have a wiring harness in it. I'm basically going to hand wire everything, because all you have is your taillights, backup lights, headlights, turn signals in the front. Everything else is already wired. The whole electrical system for the motor, all the switches on the dash, the electric fan has a relay in it, so mostly everything is already wired in this car. There's no way I'm ripping all that stuff back out and rewiring it. So I'm going to use what I have in the car now. I'm going to finish wiring the rest of the stuff. It's about as simple as you can possibly get. I'm not even sure this thing had front directionals. The front lights in the bumper, when you look up the part number, say marker lights or running lights. So I'm not even sure the front directionals originally blinked in this thing. I'm going to try to make all that stuff work again. If they only have to be running lights, they can be running lights. Some of the stuff I'm not sure how long it's going to last. Like this plate that I have my clutch master cylinder mounted on, it's pretty thin, so I don't know if that's going to be strong enough over time. Again, I got to put a spring on my clutch pedal to help it get back up. I got a little tiny leak here out of my my master cylinder fitting. And I think it's because the original line that I bought for this thing, for some reason, didn't work. It didn't seat all the way into the master cylinder or the slave cylinder. So I used the steel brake line with an adapter, and I think that either needs pipe dope on it or something, but it seeps a tiny little bit. I'm going to try to cinch it up as tight as I can, stop that from leaking, because the last thing you want is brake fluid dripping on your header. That would be pretty bad. So I can either put a tin shield under this if it continues to drip, and I'll just keep topping off my master cylinder, or eventually I'll have to fix the leak. But I'm getting somewhere on this thing. It's making me real happy to get where I am. I got to take the steering box off once more, put a bolt back through the frame for the brake line, because that's just kind of hanging out there in the middle of nowhere right now. I still have to weld up the steering shaft. I have to make a bracket that bolts on to the body right there for my steering assembly. Right now there's just a block of wood sitting under it, but I can steer the car, and definitely putting these skinny wheels on it made it easier to steer last night. I'm going to go ahead and get after trying to get the fuel line and everything hooked up, double check to make sure my tie rods and stuff are tight so I can move this thing. I got to put some gas in the tank, and I'm going to try to drive it back in the garage. So I'm going to come back in a little while. Wow. I drove it. First time in over 2 years since I bought this car, and I just drove it into my garage. Don't ever give up on your projects. If that's not something to motivate you, I don't know what is. The clutch pedal sticks down, the brakes suck, but I don't care. I just drove my car that I bought 2 years ago, almost to this week, a few weeks ago in June, or maybe the end of May. I bought it 2 years ago. I just drove it into the garage. This was completely pieced together by me. Everything on this car has been done by me. If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. Thanks for watching Cranky Motorsports. I'll be back again soon with more on this car.